I invite you to take a moment to relax, to center yourself. Breathe deeply. Take in the fellowship that we offer. Breathe out the many gifts that you bring. Relax. Put away your troubles. They'll still be there waiting for you when the service is over. But now, this moment, you are here. You are in good company. And you matter. Come back if you will, please. Before I get to the meat of the sermon, I have a confession to make. Many years ago, in First Church in Chicago, the Reverend Chris Rabel gave a sermon, Footwarmers and Furnaces. It won a couple of awards. I don't remember if I read the sermon or just heard about it, but I do remember the metaphor, and I am stealing it to use here today. I can't quote a single line from his award-winning sermon, but I am plagiarizing the metaphor. This is the service where we kick off our pledge drive. Yep, we're talking about money. Now, to some of you, especially newcomers, this may be uncomfortable, and I don't blame you. It's always uncomfortable to hear someone from the pulpit talking about money. But I want you to know I will make this as painless as possible. For one thing, I'm going to begin by sharing a little history. When the early white settlers came to our shores, they landed in what is now the northeastern part of our country. We know it as New England. And if you know anything about New England, you know they have winter. And it is cold. And it is long. And it has lots of snow and ice and other uncomfortable things. Now they came here and they settled into townships, and one of the first things they did was they started building churches. But it worked very differently from what you might expect today. For one thing, the township donated the land, so they didn't have to buy the land. And the members of the congregation got together and they cut down the trees and they milled the wood. And then they had a great big party where they put it all together and they raised up the church building. So it really didn't cost them anything except maybe for the nails. It was a true community project. And after the church was built, everybody attended it. You had to because it was the law. So you had to go there every Sunday, come hell or high water, even during blizzards. Ministers were cheap in those days. They didn't have to have a degree or even an education, but it was a plus if they could read. parishioners paid the minister by leaving baskets of food and other supplies for them. That was kind of hit or miss for the ministers, so most ministers had to have other outside jobs. But there was no need for the congregation to think much about money. Thoughtful churches even built a parish house for their ministers, so it was all very economical. But I should mention the churches themselves looked very different from what we have today. Today we have in most churches pews, or like we have here, rows of chairs. But they didn't build things that way. They built cubicles. And the walls of the cubicles, I can't get too far away from the microphone. The walls from the cubicles started on the floor and went up about waist high, and inside these cubicles were the pews. And a family would rent a particular pew. And they would come in and they would sit in the same place every Sunday. Not everybody could afford a pew. There were pews without the cubicle on the sides and in the back. But churches were very drafty. You see, they thought fireplaces would be a distraction, so they didn't have fireplaces in churches. So you go to church on a Sunday morning and it's cold and you don't have any way to keep warm. Unless, of course, you had a pew with a cubicle, because then you could bring a little box with the handle on top, and inside there would be glowing coals. And you put that on the floor, and everybody could put their feet on it and keep their feet warm. The people who couldn't afford cubicles just sat out in the draft. It was probably not a lot of fun. So anyway, it did make the churches very economical. The land was free, they built the building with their own hands. There was no upkeep for the building because they could do it themselves, and the ministers were just paid in kind. But then something happened. Different religions moved in. So now you had Quakers and Church of England and Congregationalists and Unitarians, and it was just such a mess. But the new religions had to come up with a little bit of money to buy the land for their buildings. And sometimes they didn't even build their own buildings. They'd buy the lumber and pay somebody else to do it. So the rent for the pews went up. This was not a popular move. A lot of people didn't care for that. And plus, in the new churches, a lot of them demanded that their ministers have an education. Well, this was rather difficult because people with an education are not willing to work for kind. They wanted to be paid with money. So all of a sudden, there was something whole new thing going on. So the churches decided to ask for a tithe. A tithe is 10% of your income, and you were supposed to pay that to the church. I want to assure you that historically and today, Unitarian Universalist churches are not that optimistic. We don't think you're going to give us 10%. And that's okay. You know, those early churches, with those early ministers, one of the side effects of getting a minister that had some education is they had planned sermons. They didn't just talk off the top of their head. And the sermons, though, were only 2 or 3 hours long. I mean, it was hardly worth the money that you were spending. I mean, they were used to 9 or 10 hours at a crack. But we learned. Now, most of the congregations still thought that having a fireplace would be distracting. So they put in furnaces. That is a revolutionary theological statement, because furnaces means everybody has a right to be warm and comfortable, not just the rich folks. Groundbreaking stuff here. So instead of tithing, every year we ask you to make a pledge. Make a pledge of what you think we are worth in your life and what you can afford to donate. We all donate our time, our ideas, our friendship, and our care for one another. That's good, and that's honorable. But we do need money too. We still have to pay electricity and gas, keeping up the grounds, the minister when we have one, our office manager, their musicians. Money is a theological statement. How we use it says something about us. By giving money to this place, it means literally that we are caring for one another. It means we are expressing our values with our money. It's no longer every person for themselves when it comes to winter heat, for instance. When it comes time to think about pledging, please remember, we are all in this together. Let us keep the place warm so that we can all be comfortable. I'm not finished. That was just part 1. As you know, we have been given a rather generous bequest by a member who has died. That was very loving of her. And to their credit, the board has decided they do not want to make the decision on how to use that money. They have decided that we, the members and friends, should decide that question. I am very proud of them for that. You know as well as I do that in a lot of places, only the people in power would have any say about it. But we're not like that. Everybody gets to put in their 2 cents. The board has even created several meetings where we can gather in smaller groups to discuss what we think should be done. Some of them are listed in your order of service. I have my opinion about what we should do, as I'm sure most of you do. But I want to give you a couple of things to think about. Because this loving, generous gift could end up being one of the worst things that ever happened to us. Why? Because of the history of other churches and nonprofits that have been in a similar situation. Sadly, what's happened in many places is that because suddenly they had all this money, the members and friends became complacent. They figured that since they had all this money, they needed not to pledge, or at least not pledge as much. But what that meant was they stopped owning the church. My friends, we own this church. You and I. This place is ours. It is and will be only what we make of it. If we mess up, no one's coming to save us. No one else will make sure this place continues. When you first came to us, you entered a place that was already viable, active and ongoing, but that was because someone before us cared. People before us said, we need a safe, warm place, a place where we can explore our values, our beliefs, and our lives. A place where we can question, a place where we can explore ideas, especially among friends who do not insist that we conform to their ideas. It wasn't always easy. This congregation began back in 1952, several years before the Unitarians and the Universalists merged, so we were just Unitarians then. We moved around a lot, met in different places, some of which we rented, some we owned. We had some hard times, and we had some glorious times. We've had some good ministers and some less than wonderful ministers, and it's always hard on a congregation when you don't get along with the minister. I understand you'll get to hear a lot more about this place in an upcoming service about our history. I'm looking forward to that one. But the point is, the people of this congregation were responsible for making this here for us today. They made it possible for all of us to have a warm, safe place, a place where we can explore our values, our beliefs, our lives, a place where we can question, a place where we can explore ideas among friends who don't insist that we conform to their way of thinking. I am so very grateful to those who made this place. Today we have this beautiful building in the grounds. We have room for our kids, good spaces for a variety of activities, and we've done a lot of things right. We paid off our mortgage, and we've been prudent in our spending and planning. And we've been stepping up rather well, I think, in this interim between ministers. I've heard a lot about the ministry of folks here who just go out of their way to help one another. That's called the ministry of the congregation. And we tend to be pretty good at it. Some of our lay-led services have been outstanding, in my not too humble opinion, and a lot of our outside speakers that we ask to participate have been pretty good too. I love the ways we found to be together. The music, the game playing, the laughter, playing out, reaching out to each other. Just to be together and enjoy. We owe so much to those who made this place for us, and we owe something to those who will come after us. And now we have this generous bequest. It can do a lot of wonderful things, but it can also hurt us if we think, we no longer have to be careful. We no longer have to be generous. We can let this money carry us. Please don't do that. If, when asked about our pledge for the following years, we say, I don't have to give, I'll just let the fund, we're backing down with our support by doing that. We're backing our commitment, and we're just backing out of ownership. This congregation will never ask you for more money than you can afford. We don't ask you to tithe. We don't want your last dime. But we do want your support, your caring, the time that you spend with and on us, and yes, your money. So in the coming days, members and friends may be contacted to pledge, really, not just to this place, but to each other. Remember, when you give to the church, you're financing heat for everyone, a solid building. And hopefully you'll soon be supporting a new minister. But most of all, you're contributing to the ministry of this congregation. And the bottom line is, what sort of congregation do we want to be? What do we stand for? Truthfully, our words don't matter if they aren't supported by our actions, and how we spend our money and our time is an honest indicator of just who we really are. When we told folks to use foot warmers if they could afford them, we were just saying that's everyone for themselves. But by putting in a furnace, we're saying we all matter. So I ask you, who are we? Who do we want to be as a congregation? What is important to us? This place was here for me when I needed it. I want it to be here for those who come after. What do we stand for? How do we show that and not have it be just empty words? I ask you in sincerity, who do we as a congregation want to be? Blessed be. We're now going to take... I'm very sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name is Jenny.
I think Jenny really deserves a round of applause. Thank you so much. Historically, Unitarian Universalists have the worst record of giving to their church of just about any denomination. We are also among the wealthiest of denominations, our members are, and the most educated. But we don't give just to our congregation. We also have the highest number of giving to other worthy nonprofits, our time, money, and effort. I think that's great. I love what that says about us. In the talkback after the service, I would request that we do not discuss what we want to do with the bequest. That is for the meetings that the board has set aside, and I do ask that you participate in those. I think it's very important. Instead, I would ask that we talk about what this place means to us and what you hope it offers to others. And maybe a little bit we could talk about who do we want to be as a congregation, and how do we want to express that? As I said earlier, we own this church. It is here now because of us, because of our love, our care, and yes, our money. But there are so many ways that people give here. The greeters, the people who make the coffee, the people who take care of the kids, our technical folks who make sure that even Zoom folks can join us, people who keep the place clean, who take care of the yard and make sure that the place is plowed for snowdrifts. That's all things that show our ownership. We own this place. And I am so proud to be a part of it. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for being you. So be it. And now, if you will please